Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about one of my most prized handguns, and that is this, the Delta AR Top Gun Model 10S. And when I say it's my most prized handgun, I don't necessarily mean that it's my best handgun. It's not my most expensive, it's not my most accurate, things like that. It doesn't have the best trigger, but there's something about it. It's a complete unicorn. It's extremely well made. There's a lot of things that come together in this gun that just really make me happy and proud to own it. So hopefully throughout this video, this is going to be a review video on the gun. You'll come to understand sort of why I love this gun so much. So getting started, this was designed in the mid to early 90s by two Italian men. Their name were Antonio Michetti and Carlo Chiavacci. And their goal wasn't like most gun designers, where most people when they design a gun, they're trying to reinvent the wheel, come up with something entirely new, a new way of shooting. They're trying to get service contracts and perfect the combat pistol. They're trying to create some sort of high-end race gun that just wins every medal you can think of. Their goal wasn't like that. They were just trying to set out to make an extremely well-made, high-performance handgun, and in a way it's sort of similar to a Lamborghini in that respect. You know, Lamborghinis aren't really necessarily designed to win races so much as they are just designed to be really high-end, good performers, and that's what they set out to do with this gun, and I think they accomplished it very ably. The gun is single action only and completely handmade, like I said. What's really interesting about it too is that even with its lofty aspirations of being this prestigious, handmade, handcrafted, high-performance gun, it's actually based on the lowly CZ52, which are commonly available as surplus guns, and I'll talk about some of the similarities and take these both apart together, show you how that works. But the inside of this gun is actually nearly identical to this. It's just more finely made and highly polished and things like that. But it has the same roller lock system going on the inside, which is interesting. This one, though, is in 45 ACP, and these guns came in a couple different calibers, 3 different calibers, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 45. And this one happens to be in 45. I'd love to find the 9mm. It's probably just because I prefer that caliber a little bit. That might be one of my utmost dream guns. This gun happens to be from the year 2005. Like I said, they were designed in the early to mid 90s, but I believe production was from about 1998 to early to mid 2000, somewhere in there. I know another guy who actually has one of these, and his is from 1998, and the serial number is only 80 off from mine. So if you do the math, that's about 80 guns in 7 years, which kind of indicates just how rare these things are. I believe probably less than 100 of these were ever made. If not, it's definitely less than a couple of hundred of these in existence. The Top Gun also won Handgun of the Year in 1998 at a gun show or an exposition in Germany. So it's clearly a well-designed gun in most respects, I think, and even the press at the time was able to recognize that. So what I have it in right now actually is the box that it came in, which is a pretty snazzy box, I have to say. Definitely high Italian style. On the outside, it's plastic, locks, has a combination lock right there. But when you open it, you get this nice felt material, kind of interesting plaid checkering type of pattern. The gun comes in it, and then you get a spare recoil spring, a couple tools which you're able to use to adjust pretty much every facet of the trigger pull. I'll show you that in a minute. It comes with an extra magazine, so you get 2 total. 45 holds 10 rounds. Each magazine, the 9 holds 16. I'm not sure what the 40 Smith & Wesson holds. And then interestingly, the manual for this one came on a CD that you pop on your computer, and it was a series of JPEGs that I've converted into a PDF, and I'll put a link underneath this video if you want to peruse it and download it and look through it. So that's what comes in the box. And onto the gun itself. As I mentioned, the construction on this pistol is extremely nice. The frame is a nice, highly polished blued steel, and you can see on the slide too, there's a high polished blue mixed with a matte finish there that's actually pretty nice. These also came with alloy frames, and I've seen some with a nickel finish too. In my opinion though, not that beggars can really be choosers when it comes to these things, considering how rare they are, but if you ever have the option, definitely go with the blued steel frame. I think it just really suits the character of the gun more. It's a high-end exotic, you know, you want to have the best materials and the best construction, and you get that with steel over alloy, I think. Generally, I'm not a huge proponent of alloy if you can get the frame in steel, so. And part of that is because of the weight. This thing weighs a nice 42 ounces. It's very solid feeling. I'll show you a size comparison with my Glock 17. And you can see the width there. It's definitely a fatter gun. This one is in 45, of course. And it's got those wood grips that makes it a little bit bigger. And overall, it's not a small gun by far. So that gives you some idea of the size compared to a 9mm Glock 17. Ergonomics of the gun are pretty good. I wouldn't say they're perfect though. It feels good in the hand for the most part. One thing that comes up though, this trigger guard, you might have noticed it. It's really pretty unique looking, and it's actually the first thing that caught my eye when I first saw a picture of one of these guns. I think it's the definition of exotic. I've never seen a gun with this sort of trigger guard. I just think it looks really pretty and really cool. Unfortunately though, as far as shooting goes, it's a little bit awkward at first, I think. It just really forces on your left hand, or on your second hand I should say, One-handed, it's fine. Second hand, though, it sort of pushes your fingers down a little bit, which I guess isn't a terrible thing. You know, you want to have your wrist locked at that angle anyway. And sorry, this is kind of hard to do at this angle. It just really kind of gets in the way. You definitely notice it there when you're shooting. The grips themselves, though, they're handmade, high-end wood. Those feel good. Magazine release is ambidextrous. You can see it on this side and over here. Works real simply. You just push it forward. Magazine drops out, sort of like a Benelli. So we push that forward. Magazine comes out, and it works great. It does protrude a little bit, I think, especially on the right side. So what sort of happens is when you're holding it, you can definitely feel it right in here as you're holding it. You don't tend to notice it a whole lot when you're shooting it, but when you're just holding the gun, you definitely feel this protrusion here. I'll show you the sight picture. It's good. I think it's quite accurate. It's just a simple black post up front, black adjustable in the rear. Right here, this is supposed to be a safety lever, but in mine it is not. And I've talked to another owner, and his is a safety lever, and it just has a very minute amount of travel. But this one doesn't move at all. It seems to be fixed to the frame. And I'm sure that it was intended to be like that just because these guns were handmade. That's not like something like my Dardic where it could leave the factory with nobody catching something like that just because nobody knew what was going on. So I'm imagining that this was disabled on purpose for some reason. What reason that is, I'm not sure, especially in a single action only pistol, but it just is fixed to the frame. It does not move at all. Right here is the ambidextrous slide release. This lever here. And like I said, it's on the other side too. Very easy to hit. Just reach up and grab it. And then this right here is a takedown lever, which is similar to the CZ52, and I'll show you that shortly when I compare the two. So let me just show you what it looks like with the slide racked. Cock the hammer. Drawing the slide back is a little bit strange just because of that roller lock system. Has a little bit different sort of a little bit more resistance in the beginning, and then it releases and you can pull it back, but you can see the barrel does not tilt. The barrel stays even. I'll show you, you got these ambidextrous slide releases. So push that down, slide comes forward, and around is chambered if the magazine were loaded. There's the ejection port. That other guy who has one of these, his ejection port is only on the top. This one actually has side ejection, so there were definitely some tweaks and changes made throughout the years on these guns. I'm not sure if this will show up on the camera well. There's extremely fine checkering on the back of the slide to reduce glare. It's definitely hard to see in this camera. It's even hard to see with the naked eye, but it just really goes to show you the level of craftsmanship involved with producing this gun, because these little checkers are just so fine. And because this is supposed to be a high performance range gun, underneath the trigger guard here, you can actually, with those tools I showed you earlier, with an Allen wrench, you can adjust pretty much every component of the trigger movement, from weight to pre-travel to over-travel. There's really nothing you can't adjust with the trigger. Despite that though, and moving on to shooting impressions, the trigger is not the top of the line in my opinion, especially for such a high-end performance gun. I have several triggers that are much better. I was expecting something approaching a perfect trigger, you know, just absolutely no over-travel, perfect break, lightweight, everything like that. And even after adjusting it, and I've got the trigger pretty decent, I think as good as I can get it, it still has one fatal problem. And that is, check that it's unloaded. The problem is that as you pull the trigger, even though it's a single action only gun, I'm not sure if you can see that, it's actually moving a firing pin safety there. It's hard to see, but it's moving. So what that does is, no matter how much you adjust this trigger, it's always going to have a little bit of mush and a little bit of take up. See that right there? There's some resistance there, and it travels a little bit, and then it breaks. And normally in a single action only gun, you can tune that out completely, and it's like a glass rod. And this one, it's a little bit mushier than that. Now, it still has a good feel, and honestly, despite that, this gun is extremely accurate. I was blown away the first time I took it out. There's that big 45 caliber barrel. The first magazine I put through it, it was grouping at 15 yards, basically like I do with my SIG X6 and Pardini GT9, which are two of my favorite guns to shoot. This gun was keeping up with those. I was extremely impressed. Despite the trigger, which isn't really nearly as good as either of those two guns, this gun was keeping up with those at my usual distance of about 15 yards. So accuracy is stellar with this gun. Felt recoil is pretty good. It's a little bit lighter maybe feeling than a 1911, an all steel one, but it's nothing too crazy. You know, you might be wondering how that roller lock system works with the 45, and it feels a little bit lighter than a 1911 probably, but you know, it's still a 45. Gun weighs about 42 ounces, so that does some to help soak up some of the recoil. So now I'll take it down and show you how it compares to the CZ52 on which it's based and the roller lock system that you find inside. So first I will take down the CZ52, which many of you may be familiar with. These are available pretty cheaply. It's just a surplus gun. What you do, alright, I had to do that off camera just because the angles are weird, but what you do, take it down, is you pull these two levers down and you just pull the slide forward and up and it comes right off. It's real easy to do. And what you see inside is the roller lock mechanism. And Ian on Forgotten Weapons has done a really good video of the interior of the CZ52 and how this roller lock system works. Essentially what happens is the barrel and the slide travel together for a brief moment until you see these gaps right here, right there, and right there. They travel together until these rollers are allowed to spring into those gaps, and that's what unlocks the barrel from the slide and lets the slide keep going. The Delta AR Top Gun works the same way. So you just pull it off just like that. This one was a lot easier to do than that military surplus CZ. But you can see on the inside, the design is actually quite similar. You got your roller locks right there. And what happens is, this goes this way. These two rollers are keeping the slide and the barrel locked together. And once they hit this portion here, those two roller locks are able to slide inwards, and that releases the barrel from the slide and lets everything keep moving. There's one additional step to taking this down, by the way. You have to, there's a bushing at the end here, which might be what contributes partially to the high accuracy of the gun. You have to unscrew that, and then it comes apart just like the CZ52. So again, I'll let you see just how similar they are. So I hope you can see the similarities there. The interior of this is much more finely produced. It's highly polished, no machining marks, things like that. These holes here are to lighten the slide to just the right amount of weight for the whole system to work reliably. I've had no reliability issues, by the way, with this gun. Works great. So that's the inside of the slide. I'll let you see the inside of the frame. Nice heavy piece of steel here. And like I said, you can stick an Allen wrench down inside there and actually manipulate the sear and stuff. But nice long slide rails. And with the high degree of fit and finish on this gun, that's part of the accuracy too. This right here is actually a buffer, a recoil buffer. And some of the earlier guns, this was actually a piece of red rubber, but later on I believe they decided to go with a spring, which I think is a good idea just because I'd be afraid of the rubber sort of wearing out, kind of like it does in the HK P9S, which is a similar design. It's a roller delayed blowback, but it also has a polymer buffer, and those buffers can wear out over time and you have to replace them. This one has a spring, which I think is a better design. So you see some of the internals there. And putting it back together is just as easy as taking it apart. Just sort of set it on top, push it in, and it clicks together. Not a lot of these funky high-end guns are that easy to take apart, so that's kind of appreciated. So I always talk about criticisms in every review I do, and this gun has a few, I think, a few shortcomings. One is the most glaringly obvious one is that there are literally no parts available. If anything breaks on this, I'm going to be left to my own devices, contacting someone to machine some parts for me or something like that. So that's kind of a downside for sure. Especially for a gun like this that actually is an astounding performer. It's so great at the range, but unfortunately I feel kind of guilty shooting it very much because if something breaks, I'm kind of in trouble. It does come with that extra recoil spring, which I guess is something, but on the plus side, the manual has a really good description of a thorough stripping of the gun, so probably if something breaks, a gunsmith could look at that manual and figure out exactly what broke, figure out how to replace it, things like that. I mean, it takes it down to every last screw and bolt, so that's good at least. The trigger guard is also a minor shortcoming. I think it's overweighed by just how pretty it looks and how exotic and unique it looks, but it does kind of get in the way, I think. Like I said, there were some guns that were designed with a flat, more conventional trigger guard. I intentionally searched out this one though because I think that trigger guard really adds to the appeal and to the aesthetics of the gun, but it does get a little bit in the way. And again, also the mag release kind of sticks out into your hand a little bit. Not a huge deal, but you do feel it there. On the plus side, it's quite easy to activate. You know, you can get it with your thumb. If you wanted to, you could get it with your middle finger probably too. And really the biggest shortcoming in my opinion probably is the trigger, just because a high-end, high-performance luxury gun like this, you expect the trigger to be perfect, and this isn't even really in my top 5 triggers. Just has a little bit too much mush and take up that you can't dial out. The rest of the trigger is fine, you know, there's not any over travel. The weight is good, it's about 4 to 4.5 pounds usually when I measure it. So mostly the trigger is fine, but for a single action, only high-end range gun like that, I'd prefer to have a little bit less of that creep. And then I guess maybe another criticism is that the safety doesn't work, but I don't really care, it's only a range gun. And maybe that's why they took the safety out, is because it's only for range use. Nobody ever used it for competitions or for defense or anything like that. So in conclusion, this is one of my most prized pistols. It's definitely one of the more unicorny guns that I have. And I have some weird ones. I think this is really up there. There's so few of these made. The build quality is so astonishing. They look great. Just everything about it really appeals to me. They're extremely rare, like I've mentioned, with probably less than 100 even existing in the world. I found mine in Canada, and this is not something I normally do, but I'm gonna have to take a moment here to bash a vendor. I'm not gonna get into all the dirty details, but I got this gun from Marstar in Canada, and the CEO straight up lied to my face in emails and on phone calls multiple times for the course of about 6 months. I would just encourage anybody who's in Canada watching this video, if at all possible, avoid Marstar. His staff is great, they're all friendly. The CEO though is just, he's basically a liar. And I was finally able to get this gun across the border through the help of the complete opposite, and that was Rusty Wood Trading Company. And specifically Peter, the proprietor there, he's almost a stereotype about how friendly and polite Canadians are, and just how eager he was to bend over backwards to make this gun happen for me. And I just really appreciate Peter at Rusty Wood Trading Company. I'll put links below for his website. You know, if you ever need anything in Canada gun related, I would highly recommend you do your business with him. Great guy, extremely friendly, and he's the reason this gun is in my hands now, and the reason why it's one of my favorite guns in the world. Price on these, even if you do get one in Canada and bring it down here, it's probably going to end up costing you about $3,500 or more. So not a cheap gun. I've only ever seen one other one for sale in the United States, and that one went for I think $4,500, something like that. So not at all cheap. Build quality and rarity make it worth it in my opinion. And you know, if you ever save up that kind of money and you feel like getting a unicorn gun of your own, I highly recommend the Delta AR Top Gun. It's fabulous, and it's one of my most special guns. And if I ever find one in 9mm with the all blued steel frame, that would be pretty much my my dream gun right there. So great gun, Delta AR Top Gun. This model is a 10S, like I said at the top, and it's never been clear at all what the different model numbers are. There's a few different ones, and I don't know what the difference between the 10S is and the S, and there's a couple other ones. So either way, it's a Delta AR Top Gun from Italy in 45 ACP. So thanks for watching.